Welcome to Politics Done Right. I'm here with Dr. Paul Zeitz. He's with Build a Movement 2020. Actually, I think he's the founder of Build a Movement 2020. Am I correct, Dr. Zeitz?
Yes, Egberto. Yes, I'm the founder of Build a Movement 2020. It's a call to action where we're calling on stakeholders across the country to join forces. Within the Democratic Party, we have to unify, also with independents, Green Republicans, and those non-voting Americans to work together to usher forth a more just and peaceful world.
No, I like to shock my guests every now and then and say, "But sir, who are you? Tell me something about yourself."
I'm a 57-year-old father of five sons. I'm a physician by training, and I'm a political activist. I've been working on waging justice for the last 30 years, and I've been able to broker and be part of bipartisan coalitions that have changed the direction of humanity. So in the 1990s and 2000s, I worked on the global AIDS crisis, and there were literally millions of people dying every year around the world from AIDS. And we were able to broker a political movement from the far left to the far right. And we got political leaders like President Bush and then President Obama to commit billions of dollars and massive programs to stop the dying. And it's that experience that I would like to bring forward for these other challenges that are pressing and facing us today as humanity, which is the climate emergency.
Now, what department did you work for in the government at the time that you did that?
Yeah, so I worked in the Department of State. I was the director of the Data Revolution for Sustainable Development team during the Obama administration, and I stayed on for a few months during the Trump administration.
Oh, so even recently you were still in the government.
Until August of 2017.
August of 2017. Now, what was that the genesis of you forming this group, the Build a Movement 2020, and how exactly do you expect, with all the groups that are out there that are coming up and springing up about the environment and springing up about other issues, how do you intend to get, first of all, what do you intend to do specifically, and how do you intend to get that notoriety that is necessary to get some sort of attraction within the body politic?
So I think my motivation is that the politics that we've seen in the past have failed to bring forward the kind of transformation that many, many people believe we need. We need to bring forward economic, social, and environmental justice. And we have to do that by creating an agenda for action that can connect people across the cacophony of organizational perspectives and even the 25 Democratic candidates. How do we unify the party when everyone's fighting after each other? So we as citizens have to call on our leaders to unify. And we have to also partner with Green Republicans and with independents and with non-voting Americans and inspire them and motivate them to step forward, because I believe that we're in an existential moment for the future of humanity. The climate emergency is so severe that if we don't take bold and transformative action immediately, then the threat that is upon us will threaten the existence of future generations. So we may not have a human species by the end of this century.
I am very happy that you're using the term climate emergency, which is where we're at right now. And the other thing that I'm happy to hear you talk about is not unifying, not capitulating or anything, but realizing knowing the reality that we have to work with everybody. Doesn't not just us. For those, I don't know where you stand, but politically, I'm pretty much to the left. But I understand that we have to meet somewhere with everybody of all sides. And I'm very happy to hear you say that. Now, in saying that, right now we are in a point within our society that it's next to impossible to work with the current crop of Republican politicians. Note, I'm saying politician, not people. With the Republican politicians, how do you break the back of the relationship between the Republican politician and the good Republican people who you probably need to bring into a Build a Movement 2020 movement to get something, get the traction necessary to move forward?
So let's focus on the climate emergency as an example of how I'd like to propose that we all work together to respond, which is that it's the media narrative out there is that there's this kind of us versus them,
Right.
and it's like we're right and they're wrong. And in reality, I have been working on Capitol Hill, and I've been working with Republican members of Congress and their staff, with Republican lobbyists. Guess what? They have children, and they have the desire to have grandchildren, and they understand the threat of the climate emergency. But if you look at the regular media, you wouldn't know that there's actually many Republicans that are aligned with the agenda that you and I share.
Exactly. I want to stop you there a second, Paul.
There are a group of climate denialists,
right,
that include the president and a few of his cronies. I'm not talking about that.
Now, what I want to stress, however, or what I want to get how you intend to do it specifically is, you're right. The Iowa farms are underwater. Farms all over the country they have never been flooded before. We have only 70% of the crops planted right now because the fields are too wet to do anything with. These guys see it, and most of these guys are likely Republicans, so they know it. They are ill-served by their leaders. You are a leader in the process of as an activist trying to make a difference. How do you this program is going to be seen not only by a whole bunch of Democrats, not by a whole bunch of left-wingers. It will also be seen by Republicans who are trying to reach out, regular people, but they want to see that the activist community as well is going to take them more seriously than just Trumpist.
Right. So I'm part of building this kind of centrist coalition that crosses the political boundary. And we're walking a tightrope. We want to walk a tightrope, and we want to come up with practical solutions. And we're working in solidarity with the Citizens Climate Lobby, with Earth Day Network, with a wide range of groups, faith-based groups, that all believe that we can broker a bipartisan coalition and get the kind of solutions and action that we need from our federal government. We can't do it as far left alone. It will never work.
Right.
And so we have to create a movement framework that says we want to achieve climate restoration. We want to restore a safe and healthy climate for future generations. No one is talking about that yet. Everyone's talking about mitigation and transitioning to renewable, which is critically important. And we're hearing people talk about adaptation. How do we deal with the rising seas?
Now, that is dangerous. When you start talking about adaptation, that's dangerous, because that is almost allowing the continuance of laissez-faire in the way we work with the environment, etc. Now, I want to make a few mentions, first of all, to some of our more... I have a particular segment of my audience that when they hear the words centrist, they go into a pissy fit. And in a lot of times, justifiably so. Because centrism have done very little for neither Republicans or Democrats, for that matter. But in the case of climate change, where we all share the same planet, we share the all spaces, we have to find some sort of a methodology to do so. And again, that's one of the reasons that I said I was happy to have you on. I'm also happy to hear you say that you are willing to go and work with just about everybody, because I think some of us have to learn not to give up unnecessarily our values, but at the same time not to disregard those of others. So so I appreciate what you're doing. I want to kind of switch a little bit here, and by the way, let me tell you how I do these things. Whatever I forget, do not, or didn't ask you, I want you to then tell me Egberta, but I wanted to say this as well. But I want to move on to something else, and later on you can tell me, hey, I want to get this out as well.
Okay.
Now, what did you think about the debate? Was the environment covered enough? And of those that were on stage, did anybody make more sense than the other?
The debate last night was the first that we've seen in the Democratic Party. There were 9 minutes out of 120 minutes spent on the climate emergency.
Wow.
That is wholly inadequate. For
Right.
the nature of this emergency and the state of the crisis, I agree with the stakeholders and activists that are calling for a dedicated debate, a 2 hour debate just on the climate emergency, so that we can really get into the issues. We heard 4 out of the 10 candidates declare that climate change was the largest geopolitical threat facing our country. That happened at the end of the debate. Jay Inslee said Donald Trump, and he's also focusing on the climate. So I would say 5 out of the 10 understand the magnitude of the crisis. I think that Jay Inslee, the governor of Washington State, has put forward the most ambitious climate action plan that includes climate restoration and mitigation and adaptation. And we have to do all three. The crisis is already unfolding, and so we have to adapt to it now while we're preventing it from worsening and while we're working to restore the climate. I believe that these are 3 legs of the stool of climate action. We need to do all three at the same time.
Yeah, I think that's imperative, right? Now, do you expect this second debate to be any better?
I think it's going to be an exciting debate tonight. I do think climate will come up again. I think there are bigger differences between the candidates tonight. Like we'll hear Vice President Biden's perspective. He has put forward a climate plan that is bolder than what was achieved under the Obama administration. But we're also going to see more progressive and more dynamic recommendations from people like Bernie Sanders and others. So it'll be interesting to watch.
Yeah, I mean, it's. I was talking to somebody last night at a watch party saying it is great to have this many choices between this many good people. I mean, it's just a blessing to have this kind of an intellectual discussion. But yes, I was disappointed that we didn't speak more about the climate, that we didn't speak more about a whole lot of issues. Now, your bill.
Can I respond to your last point? Because
Go ahead. Yes.
one of the responses that I had was, wow, these are all amazing people.
Yes.
I really could see them working together as part of the cabinet for the next president, and that they would bring their experiences and their intellectual capacities to bear. And last night's group and tonight's group working together, we could have a serious government that was taking on serious transformation to address the climate emergency and other crises. So I was actually feeling hopeful by the caliber of the whole community of these Democratic candidates.
It is amazing that you said that because as we were watching the debate last night, and a group of us, we sat down and we watched the debate. We looked at a particular person and said, environmental secretary,
Right.
vice president, and,
Right.
and we started naming these different people out there, and it's like, we don't necessarily want to see you as the president, but we definitely want to see you in that cabinet because these are the caliber of people we
Right.
want serving us in politics. So it's amazing that you thought something similar as well.
Yeah, I was doing that too. I was.
But moving on, I tell you what, I'm going to break here and ask you to tell me what else you want to put out there in the ethos.
Well, I believe that I would like to just talk about how do we mobilize our political action right now to focus exclusively on the climate emergency. How do we call on all of these Democratic candidates to unify going into the general election? How do we hold them accountable for breaking the logjam of the fossil fuel industry? We heard some concrete proposals last night about a carbon tax. We have heard concrete proposals about divesting from fossil fuels and transitioning to a clean, renewable energy economy. I think every American, every one of your listeners can take action and prepare for the transition that we all are going to have to take. I think we have to take responsibility for our own lack of action. We've been complicit and complacent and not holding ourselves accountable for our own behavior. Each one of us is a carbon emitter, and Americans emit more carbon dioxide per person than any other person on the planet. So we can blame the president or we can blame this one or that one, but we all have to look at the mirror and look at how we're going to change and how we're going to hold ourselves accountable for bringing forward a clean and safe environment for ourselves and for future generations.
Now, this is going to be a bit off topic because I'm a full-time political activist as well. But I don't only cover climate issues, but I cover many of the other social justice issues, criminal justice issues, racial justice issues. I don't know if that is if somehow that is going to be a part of the movement that you are building.
Absolutely, yeah. We have an agenda for social, economic, racial, gender, and environmental justice. And we have time-bound measurable goals and targets that can be achieved across these areas. And racial justice is a central priority. I believe the next president should issue the second Emancipation Proclamation. We should do a mass emancipation of all nonviolent offenders. And we need a massive program to be set up on day one that will allow these families to be reunited, for there to be economic and job opportunities in housing for the people that have been wrongly incarcerated. This is a huge moment of opportunity for healing for these families that have been destroyed by our criminal justice rules. So why don't we hear about anyone calling for a massive emancipation? Where's the plan for mass emancipation?
Wow, I mean, I have not. That's profound. Tell me a little bit more. How would that work?
Well, I think that we have to demand that the candidates set a goal and set and develop a plan to implement a bold and transformational goal. We have to ask them to do something by when. So I would say in the first 100 days, implement a mass emancipation plan. Do a proclamation and then implement a plan. You have to do it at the federal level. So there are federal rules and statutes that have to be transformed. And then you have to mobilize action at the state level. You need to create an emergency fund. You can get emergency supplemental funding to invest in these transition programs. Because you can't just release people without providing them with support, both psychological support for the reintegration with their families, community building, as well as jobs, housing, education, and healthcare. We can do that. We know how to do these kind of programs, and we just need a leader that will have the vision to declare an emancipation and implement the transition to freedom for our brothers and sisters.
I love that concept. I love that concept. And what are your thoughts on healthcare?
On healthcare, I believe that we need to move into a Medicare for All program as fast as possible. Every other developed country on the planet has a universal health package where every person in the country has access to high quality, basic primary health care. And then if there are private insurers, people can buy in additional private insurance as a supplement. But we have to have a basic package. Health is a human right for all people. I mean, in America, we spend more money per capita and we have worse outcomes. Life expectancy in our country is going down. We have an obesity pandemic. We have a drug abuse pandemic. Americans are miserable, and we can use the existing resources more effectively create wellness, happiness, joy, and create a healthy way of living so that all Americans can enjoy life and contribute to our broader society. So, Medicare for all is absolutely a top priority.
Childcare and family leave.
I'm really excited about Elizabeth Warren's universal child care program. I felt like she articulated the best plan that I've seen in terms of ensuring universal access to child care. I mean, if we're expecting people to go to school and to work while they're having a family, then we need to provide affordable child care. That is a huge priority. And she identified a plan that I think is plausible and viable and fundable that can enable all people to have locally determined child care options where targeting the lowest income families so that they get the benefit that they need and the support that they need.
I
This
mean, I
is a
think
critical step for releasing people from the cycle of poverty.
right.
You know, I've been really struck by the level of poverty. You know, we hear the president talk about America's great, the economy is at its best that it's ever been. I've been in Baltimore, Philadelphia, Los Angeles, and cities around the United States where 25% of Americans are in urban centers are living below the poverty line. The education systems are completely collapsed. There's no jobs for our young people. This is not making America great again. We need economic opportunity for all Americans. We need to revitalize our inner cities and give people education and a job training opportunities so that they can contribute to the new green economy.
Let me tell you something, Dr. Zeitz. There's a simple. I'm an engineer by training, political activist later in my life when I decided that something had to be done. Interestingly, what we're seeing here is not by accident. What we're seeing here is not. It's a mathematical formula, right? If the wealthy grows at 7, 8, 9, 10%, while the economy grows at 2%, it means that they're constantly always taking away from the rest, right? That's a mathematical equation. It's you can't get around it. And the manifestation of about that is that you see the economy doing very well. You see you see capital growing. You see all those things growing, but disparity means that only a few get it. And when you look down, like you said, you're in Baltimore, Philly, LA, and all in LA, the homelessness is ridiculously high because the prices of real estate's going up because there are few people playing chess with it. But that said, we know why these things are happening. Programs like what you're doing, Build a Movement 2020, that takes this entire economic system in a comprehensive manner, I think it's what's necessary. And I've been trying to give exposure to every piece of group, every group that is trying to make a difference, because it's not going to be just Build a Movement 2020. It will be it will be Coffee Party USA, it will be Move to Amend, it will be all these other organizations that are working separately and together to go ahead and make this change, because this is a huge country with a huge problem.
So I support Move to Amend, and I've been tracking the Coffee Party, and you know, we have Indivisible, we have Move On, we have this, we have that.
Right.
Can we create a moment between now and the 2020 election where we create a movement where we align everyone together?
Exactly.
Can we convene a forum where we come up with a joint platform, an umbrella platform for a unified movement? Because I'm afraid with all this kind of scatter, we have 25 candidates, we have thousands of groups that don't get along, don't work.
Right.
And we're going to be left with a divided kind of constituency that without a clear focus. So I believe that we need to find a way to build a movement and work together. I don't know how to do that exactly, but I think maybe people in your listenership can start in creating a forum locally to challenge all the groups to work together.
Well, I tell you what, Dr. Zeitz, one of the things that I say all the time, and move a little bit over, I think you're moving over to there you go. one of the things that I try to push here is that I'm mostly progressive. I am a very progressive person actually, and what I try to do is I try to tell folks it doesn't matter who the group is, whether I agree with all your points or not. I am going to be working with that group. And I'm trying to do that lead in by example. What I mean by that is I don't necessarily agree with all the things these different groups are doing, but all of them have a platform and their platform have some intersectionality, and we are going to work with it. And as far as politics done right is concerned, we'll make sure that all these groups get exposure and all these groups are encouraged to work together for exactly what you're talking about. Not look like a whole bunch of scattered islands in their own fiefdoms, but working to realize that we're working on a common goal. And you have a great name, Build a Movement for 2020. I mean, that is a great call to action right there. So maybe you should get into doing some more uniting of these other groups as well.
Yeah, and so we are doing that. We are working, like in the climate restoration area, we're working with stakeholders to build that movement. We're working with the youth networks, the faith networks, the climate groups, the citizen climate lobby, and trying to Earth Day network, and a whole range of stakeholders to agree on bringing forward that agenda. Similarly, on the other areas of restoring our democracy and the other topics that we did talk about, it's an effort underway to unite and unify, and to call on our political leaders to unify. I didn't hear one of the candidates last night talk about how can we unify our party? How can we unify and mobilize people who are independent? Or how do we mobilize the 50% of eligible voters who are non-voting? No one talked about how to build out from with our current state. And we're losing. We keep losing politically. So when are we going to figure out a way to transcend this kind of divided, kind of limited outreach and unify and expand our network?
Absolutely. So, well, why don't you give me, Dr. Zeitz, a closer here because we're right up on our break time here.
Well, thank you for this opportunity. Please check out my website, drpaulzeitz.org, DrPaulZeitz. And please join the movement and let's work together. Please send me your ideas and let's collaborate and unify. And let's win big in 2020.
Dr. Paul Zeitz of Build a Movement 2020. Thank you so kindly for having been on Politics Done Right. And we will meet again, my friend.